Welcome, everybody. We're excited to get going here. We're going to be talking about AI and CX. And to do that, we brought on a little partner of ours, a company called Forethought. We've got the CEO and co founder, Deon Nichols. Deon, thanks so much for joining. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well, Gabe. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Yeah, how are you today?
Yeah. Well, man, it's been hard to get you locked down. You're a busy man, but we're excited to kind of get down and into the weeds on AI and CX. But before we do that, cool stuff going on. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you guys are doing over there at Forethought.
Absolutely. So, as mentioned, I'm the CEO and co founder of Forethought, and we are the generative AI suite for customer support. I like to say we're one of the OGs in the space, so to speak. We launched in 2018, and since then, we've grown to working with high growth companies, everyone from Asana to Marriott. And what we do is we plug into their existing customer service workflows and then fine tune and train models to discover insights, solve problems, and assist agents using generative AI.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's why we're here today to talk a little bit more about that. So, you obviously, I assume, have a little bit of an opinion on AI and CX. Maybe let's start big picture. A lot of stuff obviously coming down the pipeline just in the last little bit. Challenges, good, bad. What's kind of just your take on this concept of AI and CX? Where are we? Where are we going?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think it starts with just the awareness and the noise, right? 5 years ago when we launched, nobody was talking about AI, and now suddenly everything and everyone is all about AI. Um, and that's a good and a bad thing for vendors, but ultimately, at the end of the day, for customers, which is most important, there are, I would say, two or three key challenges that they're trying to solve using AI, right? And the first of that is agent empowerment. How do you leverage AI? How do you leverage, a GPT, something like that, to turn your ramping agents into experienced
Yeah.
super agents? The second, I would say, is the age-old problem of solving customer problems, ticket deflection, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, how do you put AI in a customer-facing way so that your end users can get their problems answered efficiently and quickly? And then the last thing I'd probably throw out there is insights. I think AI, LLMs, data, with all of that in the hopper now, we're actually able to make better decisions as support teams, as customer service teams, and I think AI is actually going to ultimately enable that.
And what's your take on your hot take on this idea that agents will be dead? So that the AI will take over, and I'm sure you get that one all the time. But where do you see that balance? And then I want to dive into a couple of those areas you just talked about.
Yeah, so no, I think it's a really interesting question when people are like, "Hey, is AI gonna take over everything, or is the job of the agent dead, so to speak?"
Yeah,
Um, you know, I think it's a little bit sensationalistic, but here's what I think. Not only will AI radically transform customer support, right? It will ultimately drive much better value for customers, drive down costs, things like that. But I think one thing that we forget is that AI will also kind of create new opportunities, right? It'll actually open up new markets. Like, for example, 100 years ago, the concept of a software engineer didn't even exist, right? And now it's one of the most in-demand jobs
yeah,
in the tech industry or in technology. And so I think the same way we're going to see prompt engineers, we're actually going to see people like agents who are experts at their field, experts at answering questions, be the ones training the models, be the ones creating the content, be the ones actually building AI. Because in so many ways, AI is now democratizing the concept of engineering, right? And so
yeah.
I don't think the agent job will go away, but I do think it'll transform and actually be up leveled in so many ways by AI.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, let's dive a little bit further into a couple of these concepts. I love insights, agent, customers. So, a lot of people are always wondering about, self-service. It seems like it's something that customers want to do more. Is that something you guys are seeing in your line of work? And if so, how is that starting to play out? Like, do all customers are they don't want to deal with agents? There's this balance of complexity. How do you see that line being drawn?
The way I see it is that the ultimate role of customer service or customer support is problem solving for your customers. And that's like the end all be all goal. If your customer has a problem, whether in many ways it's often with your own product, or it's onboarding, it's whatever, or heck, it could be about anything else. When you think about it more broadly, our goal in the customer support world is to figure out who our customer is, figure out their problems, and help solve them. And so the reason I start with that frame of reference is because when you think about it that way, whether you're using AI, whether you're using human agents, whatever you want to think about, that is the end goal. And so as a customer, you just want your problem solved. Like, nobody actually has beef with AI, right? Like if an AI could solve your problem in 3 minutes versus a human solving your problem in 10 minutes, you would love that, right? And if it was correct, it was empathetic, and so on. The problem, though, is that most chatbots in the past decade have sucked. They haven't been able to solve the problem, right? And so people don't have issues with chatbots or AI or anything like that. They have issues when their problem is not being solved and they're being tossed around, right? And so everything's comes back to the customer. And so, yes, they do want self-serve. They do want to be able to solve their problems. But look, if you have an AI that's not empathetic, that isn't able to solve the problem, then it's actually really important to create that handoff path to say, hey, look, I'm not solving your problem. Let's get you to somebody who can. And usually that's the human agent, right? And then that symbiosis is what enables a beautiful customer experience. If you can have an AI that can solve those tier one problems, but also not, get people in these doom loops. Trust me, we've seen it. But make it very, very easy to hand off to a human agent when you need that level of judgment, when you need that level of care. And I think ultimately, our end users and customers would value that.
Where do you see us going from here when it comes to kind of the customer side of the house? Right now, to your point, a lot of tier one issues are being resolved. Any thoughts on kind of where it goes in the next, 12, 24 months?
Absolutely. I have kind of an unhinged thought on this. I actually think we're going to be treating AI almost like we treat agents, just like a different variant of agent, right? Like, we're going to have AI agent. We launched we invented a technology called autoflows in the last couple months, where you can basically give an agent or an AI a prompt, a policy, the same way you'd give, GPT a prompt and it responds. What if you could give an AI customer support agent a policy? Here's how we handle refunds here. Here's how we do password resets here. The same way you'd give that, playbook to one of your ramping agents. And then imagine giving it access not only just to the policies, but to all your systems, your customer with a K, your transaction system, whatever, your databases, your Snowflakes, your Shopify's, and then letting the AI figure out how to do the rest. Okay, I need to ask about this order ID. I need to ask about it, and then I'm going to go hit the backend system and so on, and then pull out the order ID, interpret the results, and then follow up. Right, like, that is the future of self-service. That is the future of customer-facing AI. Is what we call these AI agents, and in many ways, and this is like the craziest part, is I actually think that's like baby AGI, you know what I mean? Artificial general intelligence, in a sense. Like, we're getting to that point in the technology where these things can become so good and actually so powerful for end customers. Anyway, I think that's going to be the future in the next
I
12.
love that. I love that one. That's a great, I think, next step that's probably not so aggressive as eliminating the rep, but kind of taking that next level in probably complexity. Let's flip to the agent for just a minute. Obviously, we talked a little bit about agents being eliminated and stuff like that. That's a little bit abrupt. How are you seeing AI start to play out to support agents? Like, where is it working? Where is it not working?
Oh man, and this is where the variety of use cases is actually so fun, so powerful. So the first is, like, everyone, is using GPT or support GPT or whatever right now to make their writing better, to take in more context, right? So auto completion, being able to draft responses, especially in cases, for example, where, let's say you're operating in an English language business, but English might not be your first language, right? Like, you might be operating out of a call center in another country. This actually can raise the bar for that. So, right, being able to assist agents on that side. Second, bringing up resources. So there's this, I would say the bulk of generative AI use cases in production today are RAGs, so retrieval augmented generations. And that is just like a fancy way of saying, take all the data, pull it in, and retrieve something and then use that to generate an answer using an LLMs. And so a lot of companies are just doing that on public's, knowledge bases and stuff
Oh,
like that. That's
yep,
the bare
yep.
bones. But when you get something really powerful that's plugged into your data, plugged into your conversation history in customer, plugged into your knowledge bases internally, your policies, imagine all of that power at an agent's fingertips. So when something, a new question comes up, it's able to pull up, hey, here were the past issues from this customer, past issues from other customers that are similar. Here's
Hmm.
your playbook on this, and be able to pull all of that and give these agents superpowers. So I think, answer writing, retrieval augmented generation, and then lastly, I would even say Q&A. This is I don't know, more unhinged ideas, but like we've been doing Q&A, or sorry, QA, quality assurance for agents manually. Like most companies do that,
Oh,
right? You're
yeah.
literally walking through every single ticket and trying to be like, was this helpful? And you're trying to give your agent a scorecard, and they're like, yeah, please give me the feedback. I don't know. But imagine now if you, as administrators or as leaders, customer support leaders, have an AI tool that can then sift through all of that conversation data and
Yeah.
say, hey, Gabe is very, very helpful, extremely empathetic. And Deon is very good at solving the problem, but is maybe not as empathetic. And you can kind of learn that and pull out those insights and then use that to coach the agents back, right? And so I think all of these use cases are going to be super powerful, from answer generation, retrieval, augmented generation, and search, as well as QA. And I could go on, but like
No,
those are
man,
my top
that's great.
picks.
That's interesting. The QA one. Yeah, I don't. What a manual process that's been. That's one I hadn't really thought too much about, but that seems like an obvious use case to see if we can get QA in there and really start helping people kind of see that a little bit different. I like that one. Okay, great. So as we look to wrap here a little bit, you're obviously in this space, so many things going on. You got a lot of people tuning in that are just at the beginning and they're like, I don't know. What advice would you give to people who are starting this journey, what they're thinking about, really wanting to dip their toes in AI, warnings, best places to start, things to think about? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So the first advice I would give is, one, just start dabbling, start prototyping. I think that's super critical, right? Like one of the things that I think OpenAI did that they don't get enough credit for is that they made the APIs dead simple to use. Like in 5 lines of code, you can get up an interesting little mini chatbot, right? And so I think like figuring out how to use it, start getting your engineering teams using, GPT or Anthropic or whatever the models are of your choice, is the first step. The second step I would say is you got to really tease out the difference between mission critical products and operational products. And what I mean by that is, let's say you are building let's use, like, I don't know, Noom as an example, like you're a weight loss journey app or something like that.
Okay.
And so for them, what's product mission critical is the weight loss journey, right? And so building GPT products maybe around suggesting meal plans or suggesting routines and things like that can actually be really, really critical and become a defensible moat for their own business. For other things, though, what I would argue is there's also operational use cases for generative AI. For example, customer service, customer support. For those, I would actually highly recommend leveraging a best-in-class vendor like Customer, like Forethought, because what you're going to find is there's actually so much hidden complexity in that use case,
Yeah.
and vendors like us are actually benefiting and learning from all of the different businesses that we work with, right? And so I would actually argue, if you have resources dedicated to generative AI, start by figuring out which product critical use cases you can build and which operational critical use cases you can buy, because you don't want to build out your own retrieval augmented generation engine for all of your support tickets. Like, it's just like, yeah. And so those are the things I would consider. So one, start dabbling. Two, tease out the product critical use cases and operational critical use cases. And then I would say divert, build resources to the product, and then figure out what is your best in class partner on a lot of the operational
Love it.
use cases. uses.
Okay.
And
I,
so
I love that.
that's
Do
my
you
goal.
feel like there's anything people should be careful about? Sometimes you hear about this idea that you're going to maybe get false information, or any warnings that you'd put on this as people go down this path, or kind of maybe gotchas they should be expecting.
Yes. So the first thing I would say is security and safety. Like that comes up all the time, right? And so you're going to want to go with a vendor, or again, if you're building internally for your product critical paths, you're going to want to make sure you've got GDPR compliance, you've got SOC 2 compliance, and understanding how you send data to vendors, and how that gets trained, how that gets used. All of that's really important. So, for example, us at Forethought, one of the things we did from day one was we invested in technology to automatically redact PII, right?
Oh,
And so,
yeah.
so basically anything that gets sent to our servers, you can automatically redact that, and then like with 99.99% accuracy, you know that nothing getting shipped to any of these large language models contains PII, because the bots don't need it. You don't need to know that my name is
Totally.
Deon in order to answer the question. You can replace that with a token that says my name is name __ one, and as long as it's homomorphic, so to speak, and you can actually perform the mapping or whatever, then the algorithms will perform almost identically on those, right? So being able to invest in those security measures. OpenAI and others have like zero data retention uh, powers that you can sign up for, so they won't retain your data or train on it. So there's like a lot of these considerations. It can be done. Obviously, again, if you're building it for mission critical stuff, you got to do all of this yourself. If you're leveraging a best in class vendor, you should make sure and ask your vendor, are they doing all this stuff?
Very, very helpful, because I think that's very, very timely. Okay, as we wrap, then, if someone wants to know a little bit more about Forethought, or dive a little bit deeper with you guys, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, easiest way is to connect on our website. So www.forethought.ai. Request a demo of the product. It's a lot of fun to use, and I mentioned autoflows and a few other things there. If you want to get in touch with me directly, I'm on all the social channels. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm Deon Nicholas. Find me on Twitter, or X, I guess they call it now, at Doji Deon, DOJIDEON, and just mention customer, and I'd always be excited to jam.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, appreciate it. Great session. Very timely, I think, as we dive into this topic of AI CX. So, Deon, again, thanks so much for your time. And for everybody else, enjoy your afternoon.
Thanks, Gabe.